The Boy Who Survived the Lions. A true story of courage in the wilds of Zimbabwe. The sun blazed mercilessly over the Binga district in northern Zimbabwe. The earth was bone dry, cracked like old leather. The air shimmered with heat. Here, near the edge of Matisadona National Park, danger didn't just lurk, it roamed openly. Lions. Leopards. Hyenas. This was Africa at its rawest. In the midst of it all was a 7-year-old boy named Tinotenda Pudu. He wasn't a daredevil. He wasn't wild or reckless. He was just a child, curious, soft-spoken, with big eyes and a bigger heart. And like so many children, Tinotenda wondered. It was a quiet afternoon. His family was visiting relatives in a rural village surrounded by brushland. No fences. No paved roads. No boundaries between civilization and wilderness. The line was invisible, until you crossed it. And Tinotenda crossed it. No one knows exactly why Tinotenda left that day. Some say it was the flutter of a bright bird's wings, catching his eye and pulling him forward, light and quick, darting just beyond the thicket like a secret waiting to be found. Others whisper that maybe he heard something deeper in the forest. A voice, faint and haunting, carried on the dry wind. A sound just out of reach. A game calling him. Whatever it was, it tugged at him, a slow, steady pull, step by step, drawing him away from the familiar paths of home, away from safety, deeper and deeper into the unknown. By the time anyone noticed he was missing, the sun was dipping low, casting long, eerie shadows over the village. The moment they shouted his name, hoping he would answer, the silence only grew heavier. Tinotenda. No answer. Only the whispering whine through the grass. Panic spread quickly. His family rushed out, feet pounding the earth, eyes scanning the shrinking light. They searched nearby, just a few minutes, just to the edge of the tree line. Still no sign. Still no sound. They called again. Tinotenda. But the forest swallowed their voices whole. Neighbors soon joined, more and more people pushing into the thickening bush. By sunset, over a dozen faces grim with worry were combing through the wild tangle of branches, thorns, and dry leaves. The forest closed in around them, dense, unyielding. Shadows pooled like ink on the earth, swallowing the last light. And night in lion country, well, it does not wait. The predators come out, silent and patient. Eyes gleaming in the dark. Back in the village, as darkness settled, the drums began. A steady, rhythmic beating. A traditional call to the lost. The drumbeats echoed over the hills and valleys, pouring into the night like a beacon of hope. They were calling to Tinotenda, hoping the sound would carry far enough for him to hear, to follow, to find his way home. But the wild answered only with silence. No footsteps. No cries. No sign of the boy. Meanwhile, Tinotenda was already deep inside the bush, far beyond where anyone could see. The sun was gone. The air cooled rapidly, biting against his skin. He found shelter beneath a thorny shrub, sharp branches scraping his back as he curled into a tight ball. The ground beneath him was cold and hard. Unforgiving. Above, the stars stretched across the sky, countless points of cold light, indifferent and endless. His small frame pressed against the dirt. his heart pounding loud enough to drown out the quiet sounds of the forest. He listened. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves, every whisper of the wind was magnified in the stillness. And then he heard it. Heavy breathing. Slow footsteps moving cautiously through the grass. A lion. The king of this land. The shadow hunter. It stalked close, within yards. Maybe less. So close that Tinotenda could feel the power in the air, the heat of breath unseen in the dark. But he did not move. He did not cry out. He did not even breathe loudly. He stayed absolutely still. Frozen, like a statue carved from silence itself. Because the elders had told him, when the lions come, do not run. Do not shout. Stay still. Be quiet. Be invisible. And in that stillness, the lion passed by. Without a sound. Without a trace. And Tinotenda stayed alive. The next day dawned bright and unforgiving. The search for Tinotenda grew wider, more urgent. Word had spread beyond the village. Rangers from the national park were called in, their faces grim with the weight of the task ahead. They knew these lands, knew the dangers lurking in every shadow, the predators that moved like ghosts through the trees. A helicopter roared overhead, slicing through the sky as it scanned the thick brushland from above. Its powerful spotlight swept the forest floor in slow, methodical arcs, but all it found was an endless sea of green and brown, a wilderness that seemed to swallow everything whole. Then, a breakthrough. Footprints. Tiny, small enough to be a child's. Fresh. They traced the fragile prints leading west, deeper into the heart of the forest, into places no search party wanted to follow, places where lions and hyenas ruled with silent claws. The rangers pressed forward, eyes sharp, weapons ready. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Meanwhile, far ahead of the search, Tinotenda moved quietly through the wild. He was a small figure against the towering trees and tangled undergrowth, but he walked with purpose. He followed the birds, those bright flashes of color flitting between branches, knowing they often led to water or food. He listened closely to the wind, its faint whispers carrying scents and sounds beyond human reach. Every rustle, every crack, every distant animal call was a clue. When hunger gnawed at his belly, he searched for wild fruit, small, sour berries or bitter pods. The taste was sharp and unfamiliar, but it filled his stomach just enough to keep him going. At times, when the sun scorched the earth, he dug shallow holes in the cool dirt, using his fingers to uncover hidden moisture where the heat hadn't reached. The wet earth slipped between his fingers, a precious sip of life. Then he came across something unexpected. Elephant dung. Fresh. Still steaming in the morning sun. That one discovery sent a shiver through his small body. It meant two things. First, water was nearby, elephants never wandered far from a water source. Second, the massive beasts themselves were close. Elephants are gentle giants, but when threatened, they become fierce protectors. And their power can be just as deadly as any lion's claw or hyena's bite. Still, Tinotenda kept moving. Every step was a battle between fear and hope. Every breath was a reminder, survival was not guaranteed. But he walked. And he refused to give up. On the third night, the wind shifted. It wasn't just a breeze anymore. It was a low, rising howl that rattled through the trees like a warning. The branches groaned and creaked as if the forest itself was alive, watching, waiting. Dust swirled in chaotic spirals across the open flats, blurring the shadows and making the world feel unsteady, as if the earth might tilt and spill him into the darkness. Then came the sound. Hyenas. Their laughter echoed across the distance, high-pitched, broken, cruel. It was a sound that no child should ever hear alone in the wild. A sound that sent cold fingers crawling down the spine of even the strongest hunters. That eerie, unsettling cackle that promised chaos was coming, that danger was close, that safety was slipping further away. Tinotenda's breath caught in his throat. He scrambled up a high rock, heart hammering like a drum in his chest. The sun was setting fast, painting the sky blood red. He curled up on that jagged stone like a cat in hiding, small, quiet, tense. His eyes scanned the darkening landscape, searching, watching. The hyenas prowled below. 1, 2, then 4 figures slinking low, noses twitching, shadows merging with the night. Their movements were fluid and terrifyingly precise, silent hunters of the dark, driven by hunger and cunning. Each snap of a twig beneath their feet was a threat. Each sniff of the air could have ended him. But Tinotenda did not move. He didn't breathe hard. He became nothing more than stillness, a ghost in the night. And once again, the wild failed to find him. Because he stayed silent. Because he stayed invisible. By the 4th day, the search had grown desperate. The village poured out into the bush, swelling with park rangers, tribal elders, neighbors, and volunteers. They fanned out in every direction, their voices calling through the heat and dust. Dogs strained on leashes, noses to the ground, desperate to catch a scent. Drones buzzed overhead, their cameras piercing the canopy for any sign of a small, lost boy. And every night, the drums beat. Loud, insistent, unrelenting, the sound pounding into the night like a heartbeat, a call to the lost child, a plea to the spirits, a prayer for his safe return. But still, the forest kept its secrets. No cries answered. No footsteps approached. No sign of Tinotenda. But the bush was speaking in other ways. Broken twigs beneath cautious feet. Scattered fruit, crushed and half-eaten. The faintest impressions in soft earth. These were clues, signs that someone was moving, surviving, fighting to live. And that someone was 7 years old. By now, Tinotenda's body was weakening. Each step sent pain flaring through a scratch on his foot, infected and raw from dirt and thorns. His lips were cracked, dry and bleeding. His eyes were sunken, rimmed with exhaustion. He limped now. But he didn't stop. Because in the deepest part of his small, brave heart, he held on to one thing, hope. He knew they were looking for him. He believed, against every terrifying whisper of the wild, that he could make it. That he would make it. That he must. The morning of the 5th day dawned cold and quiet, the sun barely peeking over the horizon, casting long shadows across the rugged ridges of the forest. A group of tired rangers and villagers, worn from days of searching, climbed steadily toward the top of a steep hill. Their eyes were heavy, their steps slow, hope was thinning like the mist hanging in the air. Suddenly, one ranger halted mid-step, his breath caught in his chest. He raised a hand, signaling silence. The others stopped immediately, scanning the distant valley below with sharp, desperate eyes. "Wait, wait," he whispered, voice trembling. There, far below, just beyond the last cluster of trees, a small, fragile figure moved. Slowly, almost hesitantly. Small. Thin. Shaking. But moving. The group held its breath. The morning birds fell silent as if the entire forest was waiting. The figure staggered forward. Then another ranger broke the silence. "Run. It's him. That's Tinotenda." Like a sudden storm breaking, the group surged downhill, pounding through the underbrush, their voices rising in a mix of relief and disbelief. "Tinotenda! Tinotenda!" they shouted, tears streaming, hearts pounding. As they closed the distance, the boy turned. His eyes were wide but steady, fierce even in the face of exhaustion. His skin was coated with dust and grime, scratches crisscrossed his arms and legs, his clothes hung ragged and torn. His lips were cracked, his cheeks sunken, but he was alive. Alive. The impossible had happened. He stumbled and then collapsed into the arms of the nearest ranger. The man caught him effortlessly, his own eyes glistening with tears. "Hold on, boy. You're safe now," he whispered. The forest around them seemed to breathe out a long, shuddering sigh. As if the earth itself was finally letting go of its fear. For 5 nights, Tinotenda had survived in a place where no child should be alone. He had faced lions, elephants, hyenas, and the endless silence of the wild. He had walked without food, without shelter, without hope, except the faintest, flickering light inside his heart. And now that light had become a blaze. The rescue team held him close, swearing softly to themselves and the wild world that he would never face danger like that again. Back in the village, there were cheers. Songs. Weeping. Tinotenda was taken to the clinic. He was treated for minor injuries, fed, hydrated. And to everyone's amazement, he was okay. No broken bones. No bite marks. No infection. The Zimbabwe Parks Authority called it one of the most incredible survival stories they'd ever seen. Experts agreed it defied explanation. How did he go unnoticed by lions? How did he find water? How did he not collapse from fear? Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was ancestral memory. Maybe it was sheer, raw human will. But it happened. And it made Tinotenda a legend. Today, he's home. He's safe. But the image remains, a 7-year-old boy, walking out of the African wilderness after 5 nights of silence, danger, and isolation. A boy who faced down the wildest heart of Africa and lived to tell the tale. The lions didn't eat him. Because he never gave them the chance. He was too smart. Too brave. Too determined. And in the end, he became more than a survivor. He became the story. Tinotenda's rescue was more than just a moment, it was a miracle. A testament to the strength of the human spirit, even when faced with the most impossible odds. For 5 days, a small boy wandered alone in the wild, surrounded by lions and elephants, danger on every side. Yet he did not give up. He held on to hope when the forest was silent and the night was cold. His story reminds us that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the choice to keep going despite it. That even in the darkest places, light can be found. That every heartbeat matters. And sometimes, the smallest among us have the biggest will to survive. Today, Tinotenda walks home. His footsteps may be slow, but his spirit is unbreakable. And through his journey, he has become a symbol of resilience, bravery, and the incredible power of hope. When we feel lost or afraid, may we remember Tinotenda's courage. And may we always believe that no matter how deep the wilderness, there is a way back. Because sometimes, surviving isn't just about strength or skill. Sometimes, it's about never stopping. Never giving up. And always holding on to hope.